Alright guys, so we're back from Vegas. We got back 2 days ago, and yesterday I just took to recuperate. I actually went out and hung out with the boys. But I did take the time, the second day that I was in Vegas, to go through the comments and also check my inbox in YouTube and address some of the questions that all of you guys had. Now I had a ton of comments, had a lot of things in the inbox, so I was able to boil down all the questions into about 30. So as you guys can see, I did notations on my notebook. I took it there, I took notations, but some of these topics are going to be pretty lengthy for me to cover because it's just the way it is. So I wanted to see how many I can address during this video clip, so I boiled that down into about, I think it's 13 questions. So we're going to address those today, and we'll address other topics as we progress in other videos or a series of videos. First question that a lot of you had is, how did I meet 10X, Jason, Swifty, George, Paco? Answer is easy. First person I met when I moved here in 1990 was actually Paco. So Paco and I have known each other for about 22 years. We'll be 22 years in July. Through Paco, I met John because Paco's brother Luigi is best friends with John since Puerto Rico. They've known each other for a little over 30 years, so they would travel to and back from Florida, and that's how I met John. George, friend of Paco, so I met him through Paco as well. And 10X and Nexius, different story. 10X, or Jason, was actually a friend of John, also from Puerto Rico, so by default met him. Nexius was somebody that Swifty met through WoW, and eventually he moved to Florida to obviously work with Swifty, so that's how I met Justin. How do we get into the fun lifestyle of recording, gaming, YouTubing, etc.? For me, by default, you know, John was a person that was doing videos because he loved doing it, loved playing the game WoW. Eventually that turned into a business, and because of my expertise in business management, finance, economics, etc., I eventually became his business manager. So it's kind of a default thing that we just kind of fell into, so to speak. Time management in gaming. How am I able to basically fit gaming into my work life? By being your own boss and running your own business, you get to dictate when and even if you want to work that day. You know exactly what you have to do, so it's not like when you go to corporate America where if you're done with your work, they give you crap to do because they obviously are paying you an hourly rate, so they got to make sure they get as much work out of you as possible. When you run your own business, that's not the case. You do what you want, when you want, how you want it, and your fails and your successes are, you know, you can blame it on yourself and you can pat yourself on the back when they happen that turn out to the positive area. Why do I have to keep myself busy? This is both a pro and a con of myself. The reason is that one of my better attributes is also my worst enemy, which is my brain. Is what's in my head, my reading, my ideas, the way that I think, etc. So if I'm not busy doing something, I tend to spend too much time with my thoughts, which in that case basically bashes me. I go, you should be doing something productive, you should be doing this, you should be doing that, you shouldn't be sitting at home eating ho-hos, whatever. So that's the reason why I have to keep myself busy. My eyebrows. You guys are infatuated with my eyebrows even more so I think than myself. So let me just give you a quick thing on my eyebrows. I don't pluck them. Occasionally I will wax them, but I primarily get them straight edged by my barber. And it's not that I shape them. This is the shape of my eyebrows. I just clean them up. So I take the excess hair at the top, I take the excess hair at the bottom, and those are my eyebrows. So there's the story on the eyebrows. Advice for someone starting their business. The best advice I can give you, and I'm not going to go into a dissertation about business and what it takes and all that kind of stuff, but if you are contemplating starting a business, the best advice I can give you is figure out what it is that you're passionate about, that you love, that you wouldn't mind doing the rest of your life. That idea that's infected your brain, that keeps you up at night, that you revert back to every day and you keep thinking about it, and then build a business around that. It could be gaming, it could be photography, it could be whatever. I guarantee you that if you focus on what you love, the money will come. If you focus on the money, you're going to get tired of that because eventually there's no real tangible idea behind the money. It's just, I need money for the sake of having money, not for a love that you have that you want to share with everybody else. My business story, mistakes, steps that I took or that I would retake, and have I ever wanted to give up? It's a mouthful of questions. I'm gonna try and address these best I can. My business story is easy. I don't fit into corporate America. The bureaucracy and that ladder BS, just with me, it doesn't fit. So for me, it was a logical step for me to go into business, which I was forced into anyway after the market crashed in 2008 with the whole banking situation. Merrill Lynch was sold off, which is who I was working with at the time. So by default, I figured I might as well just start my business. Plus, the best time to start any business is when the economy basically collapses because big corporations, they can't adjust fast enough to the loss in revenue, so they end up going under, as you guys saw in the during that time period. A lot of companies went bankrupt and went under. So a lot of the work that they were taking on has to be redistributed. So small businesses and startup can actually pick up some of that work. So for me, it was a very good time for me to start my business. Mistakes, I don't know if I can, I don't know if I would call them mistakes. I would just call them steps that you have to go through when you're building a business. That's basically what I would call it. You have to go through those situations, and so I wouldn't call them mistakes. I would call them learning curve more than anything else. Steps that I took to get to where I'm at, and would I change anything? I wouldn't change a thing. You know, I stumbled, I fell on my face, I went through all kinds of crap, but I think it was part of how I got to the success of my business. It's just something you have to go through. And did I ever want to give up? Absolutely. You know, I can't tell you that it wasn't hard. I can't tell you that it was easy, that it was a walk in the park, that I knew exactly what I was doing. I just kind of, every day, just kind of kept pushing forward. Did networking, joined private clubs, talked to people, had ideas, shared them with other people, and eventually some other people bring dynamics to your business that you can actually jump off and start a business by forming partnerships. So I did keep myself motivated by a couple of ideas that I gave myself, or I would call them analogies. And one of them is the sound barrier analogy, and the other one is one that I call the lunchroom analogy. I'll tell you what they are. If it's easy, everybody would be doing it. If it's difficult, you're going the right direction. So the way that applies to the sound barrier is this. Obviously, you guys know what sound barrier is, and you can probably research how fast you have to go in order to break it. Same thing happens with business. The more difficult it is, the closer you're getting to success. Hence, the more resistance that you get, the closer you are to breaking the sound barrier. Same thing in business. So if things are getting difficult, you're getting frustrated, you want to pull your hair out, just stick to it. You're going the right direction, and you're actually going to succeed. You just have to, I mean, patience and persistency is a lot of what it takes to be successful in business. The lunchroom analogy basically is this. If I were to put you in a lunch line, in a dark room, and you have no idea how many people are in front of you, how many people are behind you, so basically how far off the food is, and you're sitting there for an hour, impatience gonna sit in, and you want to think, do I really want to be in this line? But let's say that you leave the line. You could have been the next person to eat, or you could have been 1,000 people away, but you would have never known. So in business, I always told myself, I'm just one step closer to the success of my business. I just gotta stick through it. You know, it could be the next phone call, it could be the next person that I meet that actually makes me reach that food or that success in my business. So those are two things I utilize for myself to keep myself motivated and make sure that if I was thinking about giving up, I reminded myself of that. So I took all the negatives and bad things that happened to me, and I took them as positive. I took them as, okay, I'm getting closer. It's a good thing. You guys also asked if I've ever done any trading in options, futures, etc. Yes, I've traded options, and I've traded Forex, which is the currency exchange market, and I've also traded stocks. I've done well, and I've also done horrendously. Example of that was September 11th. I was actually what's called long in the market, which I was on the buy side, hoping the market would go up. And I was 100% of my money in there, which wasn't a gigantic sum of money. For you, it might be, it was about $30,000, and I lost probably about 90-95% of that. And the way that I lost is that I was long the market because I was trading based on the Nikkei, which at the time mirrored the S&P 500. The difference was that the Nikkei was about 29 days ahead of the S&P. So if you looked at the Nikkei, you can say, okay, I'm gonna go along here, I'll get off over here and make a profit. Thing is, I got too aggressive. I wanted to milk it for as much as I could. I went long positions, I won the buy side. The market was going my way, and I just stood in it too long because I really wanted to milk. I could have gotten out a day early, but I wanted to just milk it basically, which is a mistake. So September 11th happened. I was still in the market long, and I got a phone call from a buddy that I used to trade with and told me, hey, are you awake? Turn on the TV. And I was kind of, groggy. I turned on the TV, the market was down 600 points. Curves started kicking in, which I'll discuss that later what it is. But curves started kicking in basically, so they prevented outside orders to come in. Eventually they limited orders from warehouses to come in, and eventually they only allowed orders from the floor to come in, which meant that anybody that put orders in, they basically got into a line. You basically said you're number one, and I was number like 1,000, 2,000, whatever my position was. So by the time I was able to liquidate my position, I had lost 95% of my money. So yes, I've traded options. I've done one of them horrendously bad, as you guys can see from the story. However, done drugs, and my opinion on legalization. This is something that I don't judge people. If you do drugs, you do weed, you do whatever, it's your life, it's your consequences, it's your benefit. You live with whatever it is. Legalization, I'll be honest with you. I think that if they legalize it, it'd be a phenomenal income stream for the US. You can tax the crap out of it. People will probably, the crime for drugs would probably go down. And I think it'd be a great revenue source for the US. And what the heck, they're already legalizing it in California and Colorado for medicinal purposes, so I don't see an issue with it. Have I ever done drugs? A handful of times. I did the experimental thing. I smoked weed, wasn't really my drug of choice, and the other drug that I've done was ecstasy. I did it when it was popular back in 2000, when the whole rave thing was going on. I did it, cool drug, amazing, listen techno too, but I don't encourage you guys to go to drugs, so don't take this as an advertisement saying, yeah, go out and get high. but just so you know that I'm done. Not that big of a deal. Opinion on relationships. I'm assuming that whoever asked this question was probably asking about the institution of marriage. So I'll give you guys my thoughts on that. I believe, based on my personal experiences with friends of mine and their parents, and things that I've read online, I can tell you that the statistics probably show that there are more divorces annually than there are marriages. So I don't think that our generation, marriage is a must. You know, I think that that's kind of fallen by the wayside. A good example is myself and my girlfriend. We've been together for 4 years. We have a great relationship. We don't argue. We don't fight. We enjoy each other still to this day after 4 years in all respects of enjoying each other. And I don't even plan on getting married. Maybe in the future is something that I might do, but right now I'm not looking to get married. And I have a great relationship. So is it a must? Is it a necessity? I don't think so. I think people can definitely live together in a marriage type scenario without having the certificate or the license that says that you're married. Has life ever been hard on me? This question, it depends on what stick you measure it with. Because my definition of hard with the definition of somebody that's basically homeless or bankrupt or going through things, then no, I haven't gone through something that difficult. Based on my measuring stick, have I gone through hard times? I think I've gone through some testing situations. I'll tell you that the hardest thing for me was when I actually moved out of my house at the age of 22 when I graduated. I wanted to basically do my own thing, so I removed myself from the maternal breast that was my mother and started doing things on my own, and it was very difficult. You know, I moved away from my house, so I was living on my own, I was paying all my bills, I went through homesickness, and I basically grew into being a man. You know, it's one of those things you have to detach yourself from the nest and kind of fly the coop, and you go through the difficulties of growing up. So in that sense, it was difficult. Another area would probably be my business. When I went to actually take the plunge into my business, I had saved enough money for me to survive probably 9 to 12 months of paying all my bills without having to, work. And there was times where I literally survived off peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, ramen noodles, and spaghetti, because I had to be very, thrifty is the way to put it, with my money, because I was very concerned that my money's gonna run out, and then what happens? So before I spent money, I was making sure that I had it just in case of emergency. You guys asked me, who is my father and what does he do? This is a touchy topic for me, only because I never met my dad. My dad actually passed away 26 days before I was born. My mom was pregnant with me, and my dad was diagnosed with cancer, colon cancer to be specific. And by the time that they actually diagnosed him with it, it was too late to do anything. So it was basically a very rapid death for him when he was diagnosed. It had spread to his pancreas, so it meant that it was spreading throughout his body. It started infecting his bone marrow, and he was trying to stay alive as long as he could to see me, to obviously see my mom give birth to me, and he just didn't quite make it. It was 26 days, and he just didn't quite make it. But my family has been very supportive of me since the beginning, only because I was what my dad left behind, and my dad was the patriarch of my family. Very respected. What my dad did is, my dad was actually the vice president of one of the universities in Puerto Rico, the Inter-American University of Puerto Rico, actually, from 1974 until he passed away in 78. And he actually was the founder of the branch or the university in the city of San Germán, and he was also finishing up his PhD at the time when he passed away. He was also the ambassador of education between Puerto Rico and the Dominican Republic. So I've been kept very much abreast of what my dad has done, who he is. There was a lot of newspaper clippings, plaques that he got from the governor, medals when he was in the military. So I do have a lot of feedback from my family, and both sides of my family have obviously, been providing me with plenty of love. So it's not like I was lacking, but they kind of made up because I didn't have that father figure. And the last thing that you guys want to know is, most important thing to keep in mind when you're developing yourself as a person. And this discussion actually had with George, and there's a couple of things that we probably came up with to tell you. One is empathy, and the other one is humility. Those are probably the two biggest things I would tell you. Be thankful for what you have, whether it's friends, food, your house, your family, whatever. Don't think you're better than anybody else, and treat people nicely, and try to sympathize with people. Try to understand humans around you. That way you know when to console them, when to be nice to them, when to make them laugh, when to give them understanding, give them a listening ear. So those are probably the two biggest things I can probably advise you to do: empathy and humility. Alright, so guys, keep the questions coming. I really enjoy doing this. I try and do as frequently as I can. We still have a couple of topics to cover. Like I said, these are the more hardy ones, because you guys want to know about my religious views, my political views, my opinions on the war. You want to know about Pipa, Popa, Oprah, everybody and their mother. So I'm gonna see if I can get to those. It might be on a video per topic. It might take me a couple videos to get them done, but I will promise you that I will get those done for you. Keep the comments coming. Keep sending me emails with things you want me to cover, and I'll see you guys next time.